The morning started like any other day on Earth. Children laughed as they ran to school. Parents kissed them goodbye at the door. Nobody knew that by sunset, everything would change forever. Captain Kyung-ho sat in his office at Earth Defense Command, drinking his third cup of coffee. The day had been quiet, which was how he liked it. Earth had been peaceful for over 200 years. Wars were things that happened in history books, not in real life. His computer beeped with an urgent message. The Luna colony was sending a distress signal. Kyung-ho frowned as he read the report. Strange ships had appeared near the moon. They were massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The colony's sensors couldn't identify the metal they were made from. "Sir, we're getting more signals," his assistant Jung-woo said, rushing into the office. "Reports are coming in from all over the solar system. Unknown ships everywhere." Kyung-ho stood up quickly. "How many ships?" "At least 50, sir. Maybe more. They're not responding to our communication attempts." Before Kyung-ho could respond, every screen in the building lit up with emergency alerts. Schools across Earth were reporting that children were simply disappearing. Not running away, not being taken by kidnappers, actually vanishing into thin air. Dr. Hana was at Seoul Primary School when it happened. She had come to pick up her 8-year-old daughter So Young early for a doctor's appointment. As she walked, down the hallway, she heard strange humming sounds coming from the classrooms. She pushed open the door to So Young's classroom and saw something impossible. Strange beams of blue light were coming down from the ceiling. The children caught in the light were fading away like ghosts. Their teacher was screaming, trying to grab the students, but her hands passed right through them. "So Young!" Hana shouted, spotting her daughter near the window. But even as she ran forward, the blue light touched her child. So Young looked at her mother with confused eyes before becoming transparent and disappearing completely. Hana fell to her knees, staring at the empty space where her daughter had been. Around her, other parents were arriving to find their children gone. The classroom that had been full of laughing kids was now silent and empty. The same scene was happening all over Earth. In Tokyo, an entire elementary school lost 400 children in 10 minutes. In New York, kids vanished from playgrounds while their parents watched helplessly. In London, a children's hospital found that every patient under the age of 16 had simply disappeared from their beds. Admiral Jae-min stood in the main command center, watching reports flood in from across the planet. The numbers were terrifying. In just 6 hours, nearly 100,000 children had vanished, all between the ages of 4 and 16. No adults were taken, no elderly people, just children. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Communication Officer Min-ho announced. "It's coming from the alien ships." "Put it through," Jae-min ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed a creature that made everyone in the room step backward. It looked like a giant insect walking on 2 legs. Its skin was dark purple and covered in sharp spikes. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Primitive humans," the creature said in broken English. "We are the Velkari Empire. We have taken your young ones. Their minds are useful to us. Do not try to follow. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Resistance will bring your complete destruction." "Wait," Admiral Jamin shouted. "Why are you taking our children?" "We can negotiate. We can trade something else." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have nothing we want except your offspring. Their minds are empty and can be shaped for our purposes. Adult human minds are too rigid and damaged. The young ones will serve the Empire well." "Bring them back," Jamin demanded. "No. Accept your loss. Be grateful we do not destroy your world. Attempt to follow us, and we will return to kill every human alive." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, the alien ships were already moving away from Earth. They accelerated to impossible speeds and vanished into hyperspace, taking the children with them. The world went silent. Then the screaming began. Dr. Hana found herself at the Earth Defense Headquarters without remembering how she got there. She was one of thousands of parents who had come, demanding answers, demanding action, but there was nothing the military could do. Earth's fastest ships would take years to reach the nearest star. The aliens had technology that humans couldn't even understand. Captain Kyung-ho watched the crowds of desperate parents through his office window. He had seen combat before, had faced dangerous situations, but nothing had prepared him for this. The sound of mothers crying for their lost children was worse than any weapon. His computer showed the final count, 98,847 children taken. Every major city had lost hundreds of kids. Some small towns had lost their entire youth population. Schools sat empty. Playgrounds were silent. Toys lay abandoned in bedrooms that would never hear laughter again. "Sir," Jung-woo said quietly, "President Yoon-ji is calling an emergency session of the World Assembly. She wants you there." Kyung-ho nodded but didn't move from the window. Below, he could see Dr. Hana talking to a group of other parents. Even from this distance, he could see the rage building in their eyes. The shock was wearing off, and anger was taking its place. That night, Earth was darker than it had been in centuries, not because of any power failure, but because the lights of hope had gone out in millions of homes. Parents sat in empty bedrooms, holding toys their children would never play with again. Brothers and sisters cried themselves to sleep, not understanding why their siblings had vanished. But in the depths of human grief, something else was stirring. Something that the Velkari Empire had never encountered before and didn't understand. They had taken the cubs from a species that had fought its way to the top of its world's food chain. They had hurt the young of creatures whose ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars by never ever giving up. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would simply accept their loss and move on. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As midnight passed over Earth, emergency meetings were already beginning. Scientists were examining the alien technology fragments left behind. Military leaders were discussing impossible plans. Engineers were sketching designs for weapons that didn't exist yet. The Velkari had made a mistake. They had hurt humanity's children. Now they would discover what humans became when someone threatened what they loved most. The harvest was over, but the reckoning was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the children disappeared. Earth looked the same from space, but everything had changed on the surface. The world that had once celebrated peace now prepared for war. Professor Dong-hyun had never worked so hard in his life. Before the aliens came, he spent his days studying peaceful creatures in Earth's oceans. Now he stood in an underground laboratory 3 miles beneath Seoul, trying to understand alien technology that defied every law of physics he knew. "The metal fragments are unlike anything we've seen," he told the assembled team of scientists. "They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once. That's how their ships could phase through our defenses." Dr. Hana stood at the back of the room, her notebook filled with calculations. She had quit her job as a children's doctor the day after So Young disappeared. Now she worked 18 hours a day, trying to understand the creatures that had stolen her daughter. "We found something else," Hana said, stepping forward. "The energy readings from the transport beams show patterns. The aliens weren't just taking children randomly. They were scanning for specific brain activity patterns." "What kind of patterns?" Dong-hyun asked. "Creativity, problem-solving ability, emotional adaptability. They wanted the smartest, most flexible, young minds they could find." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The aliens hadn't just stolen Earth's children. They had stolen Earth's future. Captain Mi Kyung entered the laboratory wearing a medical gown. She was Kyung-ho's younger sister, and like many relatives of military personnel, she had volunteered for the most dangerous part of Project Prometheus, the Human Enhancement Program. "How do you feel?" Dr. Lee asked, checking her vital signs. "Different," Mi Kyung replied honestly. I can hear radio signals without a receiver. When I touch metal, I can feel the electricity running through it. And sometimes—" She paused, concentrating. The lights in the room dimmed, then brightened. "Sometimes I can control things with my mind." The enhancement process was brutal. They had studied the brain scans of the taken children, trying to understand what made young human minds so valuable to the aliens. Then they attempted to recreate those neural patterns in adult volunteers. Many didn't survive, of the first 100. Volunteers, only 37 lived through the process. But those who survived emerged, changed in ways that amazed even the scientists. "The pain was worth it," said enhanced volunteer Tae Sung, flexing his hand and watching sparks dance between his fingers. "If this is what it takes to get our kids back, then we do it." Intelligence Officer Tae Ho worked in a different part of the underground complex. His job was to monitor alien communications that occasionally reached Earth. Most of it was incomprehensible, but slowly, patterns emerged. "I've identified at least 3 different Velkari facilities," he reported to Admiral Jae-min. "They call them conditioning centers. The children are being trained to use their minds as weapons." The intercepted messages were worse than anyone had imagined. Human children were being broken down psychologically, their memories erased, their personalities rebuilt to serve alien masters. Some were being modified surgically to enhance their psychic abilities. "There's more," Tae Ho continued, his voice tight with anger. "They're not just taking human children. We've identified at least 12 other species that have suffered similar raids. The Velkari have been doing this for thousands of years." Admiral Jae-min studied the star chart showing Velkari territory. It was vast, covering hundreds of systems. Their empire was built on slavery, powered by the stolen minds of children from across the galaxy. "How many ships do they have?" Jae-min asked. "Conservative estimate? 50,000 warships, maybe more." The numbers were overwhelming. Earth had barely 100 military vessels, most designed for patrolling the solar system, not fighting interstellar wars. But as Jae-min looked around the command center, he saw something that gave him hope. The same determination that had driven humans to explore space was now focused on a single goal: bringing their children home. President Yoon-ji stood before the World Assembly in Geneva. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. But for once, there were no disagreements about what needed to be done. "They have taken our children," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "They have wounded our souls. They believe we are weak because we are peaceful. They think we will simply accept this loss and move on with our lives." She paused, looking out at the faces of people whose world had been shattered. "They are wrong. Humanity did not reach the stars by accepting defeat. We did not become the dominant species on our world by giving up when things became difficult. We are peaceful by choice, not because we are weak." The applause was thunderous, but Yoon-ji raised her hand for silence. "Today, I am authorizing the largest military buildup in human history. Every resource of our civilization will be dedicated to one purpose: the complete destruction of the Velkari Empire. We will build ships that can cross the galaxy. We will create weapons that can penetrate their defenses. We will turn every human into a soldier if necessary." She leaned forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "The Velkari wanted our children because their minds are special. They will learn that the minds of adult humans can be just as dangerous when motivated by the right cause. We are going to war, and we will not stop until every stolen child is home or every alien responsible is dead." The vote was unanimous. Every nation on Earth committed its full resources to the war effort. Construction began immediately. Orbital shipyards expanded by the week. Mining operations spread across the asteroid belt. Every university on Earth focused on military research. Factories that once made consumer goods now produced weapons and armor. The enhanced humans became the core of Earth's new military force. Mi-kyung led training sessions for new volunteers, teaching them to use their new abilities. The enhancement process improved as scientists learned more, but it remained dangerous. Still, volunteers lined up by the thousands. We call ourselves the Lost Generation, Mi Kyung told a group of new recruits. Not because we're lost, but because we've lost our children. Every one of us has a reason to fight. Every one of us has someone to bring home. Dr. Hana worked with the enhanced humans, studying how their modified brains functioned. She had volunteered for enhancement herself, but the scientists needed her research skills more than her combat abilities. The children are still alive, she told President Yoon-ji during a private meeting. The alien communications confirm it. They're being held on planets throughout Valkyrie space. But she hesitated. What is it? The conditioning process is designed to be irreversible. Even if we rescue them, they may not remember being human. They may not remember us. Yoon-ji's face hardened. Then we'll help them remember. But first, we have to reach them. As Earth's first war fleet neared completion, deep space reconnaissance missions brought back intelligence about Valkyrie defenses. The aliens had grown complacent after millennia of easy victories. Their border systems were lightly defended, more concerned with processing slaves than repelling attacks. They've never faced serious resistance, Admiral Jamin observed. Every species they've encountered either surrendered quickly or was too primitive to fight back effectively. Captain Kyung-ho, now commanding the lead assault ship, studied the tactical reports. What about us? Are we different? Jamin smiled grimly. Every other species they've faced evolved on worlds with limited resources, where cooperation was necessary for survival. We evolved as persistence hunters on a world where everything wanted to kill us. We learned to work together not out of necessity, but because it made us more effective predators. The first wave of human warships was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Built with modified Valkyrie technology and powered by human determination, they represented a fusion of alien science and human engineering. But more importantly, they carried crews that had been fundamentally changed by loss and rage. The enhanced. Humans could interface directly with their ship's systems. Regular crew members fought with the desperation of parents whose children had been stolen. As the fleet prepared to depart, messages from across Earth flooded the communication channels. Parents saying goodbye to the soldiers who might bring their children home. Children who had been too old to be taken, promising to carry on if their older siblings never returned. Dr. Hana stood in the observation deck, watching the ships prepare for launch. Her daughter was out there somewhere, possibly being tortured, possibly being turned into a weapon against her own species. But for the first time in 6 months, Hana felt something other than despair. She felt hope. And more than that, she felt the cold certainty that the Valkyrie Empire was about to discover what humans were truly capable of when they had nothing left to lose. The ships engaged their hyperdrives and vanished into the depths of space, carrying with them the fury of an entire world. 18 months after the children disappeared, Earth looked like a different planet. The orbital shipyards stretched for thousands of miles around the equator, blocking out the sun for hours each day. Every nation had converted its economy to support the war effort. There were no more luxury goods, no more entertainment industries. Everything existed for one purpose: building the tools of vengeance. Chief Engineer Hyun-woo floated in zero gravity, supervising the construction of the largest warship humanity had ever built. The Vengeance-class dreadnought stretched 3 miles from bow to stern, bristling with weapons that had been designed specifically to kill Valkyrie. "How many more until the fleet is ready?" asked Admiral Jamin, joining him at the observation window. 1,200 ships completed, sir. Another 800 in final assembly. Hyun-woo gestured toward the construction bays that filled the view. Each one carries enough firepower to level a city. But Jamin wasn't looking at the ships. He was watching the people building them. Workers who hadn't taken a day off in over a year. Engineers who slept at their workstations. Families who had given up everything comfortable about their lives to create instruments of war. They work like their children's lives depend on it, Jaemin observed. Because they do, Hyunwoo replied simply. Down on Earth's surface, Colonel Sang-ho trained the first generation of enhanced human soldiers. The enhancement process had improved dramatically since the early days. Now, 7 out of 10 volunteers survived the procedure, emerging with abilities that seemed almost magical. Target acquisition, 1 kilometer, Sang-ho called out to the training squad, enhanced soldier. Yumin raised his rifle and fired. The energy bolt traveled the full distance in less than a second, striking a target no bigger than a coin. Around him, 20 other enhanced humans achieved similar precision, but marksmanship was only part of their training. The enhanced soldiers could survive in vacuum for short periods. They could interface directly with computer systems. Most importantly, they could sense Velkari technology from hundreds of meters away. Remember, Sang-ho told his troops, we're not just soldiers. We're the nightmare that aliens have when they steal human children. Every one of them that sees us coming will know exactly why we're there. In the deepest laboratories beneath the Himalayan mountains, Dr. Yujin worked on humanity's most secret weapon. She had been a peaceful researcher before the abductions, studying how to cure diseases. Now she engineered death itself. The nanobots are ready for testing, she announced, to the small group of military officials. They're designed to target Velkari cellular structure specifically. Once deployed, they cause complete nervous system failure within 30 seconds. General Wan Ho studied the microscopic robots through the viewing screen. How do they work? They enter through the respiratory system and immediately begin attacking nerve cells. The victim experiences increasing pain as their nervous system is systematically destroyed. Death occurs when the nanobots reach the brainstem. Is it quick? Eugène's expression was cold. No, sir. It's very slow and extremely painful. They'll have time to understand what's happening to them. The room fell silent. Everyone present had lost children to the Velkari. The thought of alien slavers suffering as they died brought no one any joy, but it satisfied something deep and primal in their hearts. How many doses can you produce? Wonho asked. Enough to kill every Velkari in their empire, sir. With plenty. Left over. Meanwhile, deep space reconnaissance missions continued to bring back intelligence about Velkari operations. Enhanced humans, their minds modified to resist alien psychic attacks, infiltrated the outer edges of Velkari space. Captain Sunja commanded one such mission. Her ship, designed to be invisible to Velkari sensors, had spent 3 months studying alien slave facilities. What she discovered made her enhancement-strengthened mind burn with rage. Confirmed locations of 47 processing centers, she reported via quantum transmission. Human children identified at 32 of them. Estimated total population, 23,000 survivors. The numbers were devastating. Of the nearly 100,000 children taken, less than a quarter remained alive. The rest had died during conditioning, been killed during failed experiments, or simply couldn't survive the psychological trauma of having their minds rebuilt. What about their condition? Asked Intelligence Officer Tae-ho. Sunja's voice was tight with controlled fury. Bad. Very bad. Most don't respond to human language anymore. They've been modified extensively. Some have been surgically altered to enhance their psychic abilities. Others have been... She paused, struggling to find words. They've been turned into living weapons, sir. The worst discovery was on the planet Velkari called Training Ground 7. Human children were forced to fight each other in gladiatorial contests, while alien nobles watched for entertainment. Winners received slightly better food. Losers were killed. My daughter could be in one of those places, Dr. Hana said quietly, reviewing the intelligence reports. All of our children could be, replied President Yoonji, which is why we're going to burn every one of those facilities to the ground. The final piece of preparation was psychological. Humanity had been peaceful for centuries. Most people had never seen real violence, never killed another living being. But war against the Velkari would require a level of brutality that peaceful humans weren't naturally capable of. "We're programming you to hate," explained military psychologist In-ho to a group of new recruits. "Not blind rage, but focused, intelligent hatred. When you see a Velkari, you won't think of it as a living being. You'll think of it as the creature that stole your children." The psychological conditioning was disturbingly effective. Soldiers who had once refused to kill insects now spoke casually about exterminating entire alien populations. The transformation worried some observers, but President Yoon-ji was clear about the priorities. "We can worry about our souls after we get our children back," she said. As Earth's war machine reached completion, other alien species began to take notice. Intercepted communications showed that news of human military buildup was spreading across the galaxy. Some species offered to help. Others prepared to defend themselves against what they saw as a dangerous new threat. "The Androni Collective wants to send military advisors," reported diplomatic liaison Min Seo. "They've been fighting the Velkari for decades without success." "What do they want in return?" asked Admiral Jae-min. "Protection from Velkari retaliation after we attack." Jae-min considered this. "Tell them we'll consider their request after we've destroyed the Velkari Empire. We don't need their help, and we don't want to be slowed down by allies who might have second thoughts." The human approach to warfare was already proving different from anything the galaxy had seen. Other species fought to defend themselves or gain territory. Humans were fighting for extinction, not their own extinction, but the complete elimination of everyone who had hurt their children. "Sir," reported Enhanced Captain Wu Jin, "final system checks are complete. All ships are armed and ready. Troop deployment is at 100%. We're ready to begin operations." Admiral Jae-min looked out at the assembled fleet. 2,000 warships, each one crewed by people who had personal reasons for fighting, enhanced soldiers whose abilities made them living weapons, scientists who had turned their knowledge toward creating more efficient ways to kill aliens. "Send a message to all ships," he ordered. "Remind them why we're here. Remind them what we're fighting for." The message was simple. Remember the children. Across the fleet, humans prepared for a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. They weren't fighting for territory or resources or political advantage. They were fighting for the most basic parental instinct in the universe, protecting the young. Dr. Hana stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, her daughter, so young, was being held by creatures that saw her as property. The little girl who used to laugh at bedtime stories was probably being trained to kill other children for alien entertainment. "We're coming, sweetheart," Hana whispered to the darkness. "Mommy's coming, and she's bringing friends." The fleet engaged its hyperdrives and vanished into the void, carrying with it the concentrated fury of an entire species. The Velkari Empire had ruled through fear for thousands of years. They were about to learn what real fear looked like. Behind them, Earth continued its transformation. More ships were being built, more soldiers were being enhanced, more weapons were being perfected. Because everyone understood that this first assault was just the beginning. The war wouldn't end until every stolen child was home, or every Velkari was dead. Preferably both. The Human Liberation Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. Captain Sunja watched the tactical displays light up with Velkari ships and installations. After months of planning and preparation, they were finally here. "Target confirmed," reported Enhanced Navigator Kyung-min. "Velkari Slave Processing Facility, planetary surface, detecting human life signs." Sunja felt her enhanced nervous system respond to the proximity of alien technology. Every modified human on the ship could sense the Velkari presence like a bad smell. It made their skin crawl and their minds burn with anger. "All ships, this is Admiral Jae-min," came the fleet-wide transmission. "You know why we're here. Every ship in this fleet carries the names of stolen children painted on its hull. Today, we begin bringing them home. The battle began without warning or negotiation. Human ships simply opened fire. The Velkari defenders were caught completely off guard. They had been expecting another futile rescue attempt by a primitive species, like the failed missions other alien races had tried. Instead, they faced weapons that could penetrate their shields and ships that moved faster than their tracking systems could follow. "How are they doing this?" demanded Velkari Fleet Commander Zektar as human projectiles tore through his flagship's defenses. "Their technology should be centuries behind ours." His tactical officer's answer was cut short as enhanced human soldiers teleported directly onto the bridge. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Humans who could phase through solid matter, move at impossible speeds, and interface with alien technology just by touching it. Enhanced Lieutenant Dalho materialized next to the Velkari commander, his rifle already firing. The alien tried to raise its defensive shields, but Dalho's enhanced mind was already inside the ship's computer system, turning every security measure against its creators. "This is for the children," Dalho said in perfect Velkari as he pulled the trigger. The space battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 47 Velkari warships had been reduced to debris. The humans had lost 3 ships and taken minimal casualties, but the real objective was planet-side. Commander Wu Jin led the assault on the slave processing facility. His enhanced soldiers moved through the alien installation like ghosts, their modified senses allowing them to detect and disable Velkari defenses before the aliens even knew they were under attack. "Contact," reported enhanced soldier Haye Jin as they breached the main facility. "Multiple life signs ahead. Human children confirmed." What they found inside made even the enhanced soldiers, with their modified emotions and strengthened minds, stop in shock. The facility stretched for miles, underground. Thousands of children from dozens of species were held in cells that were too small for them to stand upright. Human children, some as young as 5, had been surgically modified with alien technology. Metal implants protruded from their skulls. Their eyes had been replaced with mechanical sensors. "My God," whispered Medic Haya's son, kneeling beside a human girl who couldn't have been more than 7 years old. The child's arms had been amputated and replaced with mechanical appendages designed for operating alien machinery. "Can you understand me?" He-son asked gently. The child looked at her with mechanical eyes that showed no recognition of human speech. When she tried to speak, only alien words came out. She had been conditioned so thoroughly that she no longer remembered being human. Wu Jin forced himself to keep moving deeper into the facility. In the lower levels, they found the worst horrors. Human children were strapped to tables while alien scientists performed experiments on their brains. Others were being forced to fight each other while Velkari nobles watched and placed bets. "Kill them all," Wu Jin ordered his soldiers. "Every alien in this facility dies. Slowly." The enhanced humans moved through the facility methodically. They didn't simply shoot the Velkari. They made them suffer. Aliens who had spent years torturing children experienced every agony they had inflicted, multiplied by the technological advantages of enhanced human soldiers. "Please," begged one Velkari scientist, as enhanced soldier Junseo dragged him toward a machine the alien had used to modify children's brains. "I was only following orders. I never wanted to hurt them." "Neither did they," Junseo replied, activating the machine. The rescue operation yielded 847 human children, but the word rescue felt wrong. Most of the children no longer recognized human faces or understood human language. They had been broken so completely that many would never recover. Dr. Hana worked with the medical teams, trying to assess the damage done to the children's minds. Some had been modified so extensively that they were barely human anymore. Others retained human appearance but had been psychologically conditioned to serve alien masters. This one keeps asking for her owner, reported Nurse So Young, indicating a girl who appeared to be about 12. She's been trained to perform maintenance on Velkari ships. She doesn't understand that she's been rescued. Hana knelt beside the girl and spoke softly in Korean, then English, then several other human languages. The child responded only in Velkari, begging to be returned to her workstation. How long before they remember being human? Asked Commander Wu Jin. Some of them might never remember, Hana admitted. The conditioning goes beyond psychological. They've had their brain chemistry altered at the cellular level. But not all the news was bad. Some children, particularly those who had been recently captured, retained enough of their humanity to recognize their rescuers. 15-year-old Jin Woo had been taken only 8 months earlier and still remembered his parents' names. "Are you real?" he asked when enhanced soldier Dal Ho found him. "I kept hoping someone would come, but the aliens said humans were too weak to fight them." "We're real," Dal Ho assured him. "And we're not weak anymore." Word of the successful attack spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. For the first time in galactic history, a species had not only resisted Velkari expansion, but had actively attacked their facilities and won. "Impossible," declared Velkari High Commander Vorkax when reports reached the Empire's capital. "No species has ever successfully assaulted our installations. Their technology is primitive." His intelligence officers were forced to deliver disturbing news. The humans had somehow acquired and modified Velkari technology, creating hybrid weapons that were superior to the originals. More troubling, they had found ways to enhance their own biology, creating soldiers with capabilities that exceeded standard Velkari troops. "How many ships do they have?" Vorkax demanded. "Intelligence estimates between 1 and 2,000 combat vessels, sir. All heavily armed and crewed by enhanced humans." Vorkax studied the tactical reports. The humans had lost only 3 ships while destroying 47 Velkari vessels. Their soldiers had suffered minimal casualties while eliminating every alien defender. This wasn't lucky beginners. This was a military force specifically designed to kill Velkari. "Send additional fleets to reinforce all slave facilities," he ordered. "And prepare the homeworld defenses. If these humans want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." But the Velkari were already too late. Human ships were appearing throughout their territory, striking at facilities they had thought were secret. Enhanced human soldiers could detect Velkari technology from orbit, making it impossible to hide slave installations. On the planet Kreshatar, a facility holding 1,200 human children was liberated by enhanced Captain Mi-kyung's assault force. The aliens fought desperately, knowing that surrender meant slow death at human hands. "No mercy," Mi-kyung told her soldiers as they prepared to breach the facility. "They showed none to our children." The pattern was the same everywhere human. Forces struck. Complete victory for the attackers, total annihilation for the defenders, and the liberation of damaged children who might never fully recover from their ordeal. But perhaps most importantly, other enslaved species were taking notice. On worlds throughout Velkari territory, alien slaves began to whisper about the humans who had come to fight their oppressors. Some began to hope that their own children might be rescued. "The humans are different," observed Androni slave Veltar, as news of another human victory reached his work camp. "They don't negotiate with slavers. They just kill them." President Yoon-ji received regular reports about the liberation campaign from her command center on Earth. Each successful mission brought mixed emotions: joy at the rescue of human children, horror at the condition those children were found in, and burning rage at the scale of Velkari cruelty. "Total count so far," reported Admiral Kyung-ho via quantum transmission. 14 facilities liberated, 4,237 human children recovered. Enemy casualties, approximately 50,000 Velkari dead. "What about our losses?" Yoon-ji asked. 43 humans killed in action, all volunteers who knew the risks. The casualty ratio was devastating for the Velkari. They were losing hundreds of soldiers for every human death. But Yunji knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when human forces reached the heavily defended core worlds of the Velkari Empire. "Sir," reported Intelligence Officer Taeho, "we're receiving communications from other species. 7 different alien governments want to form alliances with us." 3 years into the war, Grand Admiral Mi Kyung commanded a fleet that stretched across 3 star systems. What had begun as a rescue mission had become the largest military operation in galactic history. 10,000 human ships now prowled Velkari space, hunting slave facilities and destroying everything that stood in their way. The transformation of humanity was complete. Earth's population had doubled as liberated slaves from dozens of species chose to make the Sol system their new home. Enhanced humans, no longer entirely human themselves, had become the galaxy's most feared warriors. And the children they had, set out to rescue, were slowly learning to be children again. "Status report," Mi Kyung requested as her flagship approached the Velkari homeworld. "Orbital defenses detected," reported Enhanced Navigator Byung-soo. "Approximately 800 defensive platforms and 3,000 ships. Velkari High Command has pulled forces from across the Empire to defend their capital." Mi Kyung studied the tactical display. The Velkari homeworld was the most heavily defended planet in known space. Massive energy shields protected the surface. Weapon platforms capable of destroying moons orbited at strategic points. The alien fleet defending the system was larger than anything humanity had faced before. "They're scared," observed Enhanced Captain Dal-Su, his modified senses detecting the electronic signatures of Velkari panic. "Their communications are chaotic. They're not used to being the ones under attack." The siege of Velkari Prime began with a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. "Return our children, and your deaths will be quick." There was no response. The Velkari had passed the point where negotiation was possible. Too many of their people had died. Too many of their facilities had been destroyed. This was no longer a conflict that could end with compromise. General Byung-ho led the ground assault while Fleet Admiral Dong-soo coordinated the orbital bombardment. The battle plan was methodical and merciless. Every Velkari military installation would be destroyed. Every government facility would be leveled. Every alien who had participated in the slave trade would die. "Remember," Byung-ho told his assault troops as they prepared for deployment, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to ensure this never happens again." The enhanced soldiers who prepared for the final assault were no longer recognizable as the humans who had volunteered 3 years earlier. Repeated modifications and battlefield experiences had changed them into something new. They could survive, in vacuum, interface with alien technology, and fight for days without rest. But more than their physical capabilities, their minds had been shaped by years of liberating tortured children. They had seen what the Velkari were capable of. They had witnessed the aftermath of alien experiments on human kids. They had held dying children who begged to return to their alien masters because the conditioning was so complete. "No survivors" was the unofficial motto of the assault forces. Not out of bloodlust, but from the cold certainty that any Velkari allowed to live would eventually return to stealing children. The orbital bombardment began with weapons that Earth scientists had designed specifically for this moment. Gravity, bombs that crushed Velkari defensive positions, energy weapons that turned alien shields into plasma, and most terrifying of all, the nanobots that Dr. Yujin had perfected. "Deploying justice particles," announced Weapons Officer Hye-jin as clouds of microscopic death descended toward the planet's surface. The nanobots were selective. They ignored other species completely, but caused agonizing death to any Velkari they encountered. Across the planet, alien defenders began experiencing the same slow, painful dissolution of their nervous systems that they had inflicted on countless children. But the most devastating weapon was psychological. Enhanced human soldiers could project images directly into Velkari minds, showing them exactly what they had done to human children. Aliens who had tortured kids for entertainment found themselves experiencing every moment of pain they had caused, multiplied and concentrated into pure terror. "They're breaking," reported Enhanced Commander Jun-Ho from the planetary surface. "Velkari forces are surrendering en masse. They'd rather die quickly than face enhanced interrogation." The battle lasted 72 hours. When it ended, the Velkari homeworld was a smoking ruin. The capital city where alien nobles had watched human children fight to the death was now a crater. The palaces where Velkari leaders had displayed modified alien slaves as trophies were reduced to radioactive glass. Most importantly, the planet's largest slave facility was liberated. Enhanced Captain Wu Jin led the team that breached the underground complex, where the Velkari had kept their most valuable specimens. "Contact," reported Enhanced Soldier So Jin, as they descended into the facility's depths. "Multiple human life. Signs detected." "But, sir," her voice trailed off as her enhanced senses processed what lay ahead. The facility was vast, stretching for miles beneath the planet's surface. Thousands of children from dozens of species were held in conditions that defied description. But the human section was the worst. Dr. Hana, now serving as the fleet's chief psychologist, entered the facility to assess the rescued children. What she found challenged even her enhanced ability to process trauma. "They've been using human children as breeding stock," she reported with clinical detachment that barely masked her rage, "attempting to create a race of psychic slaves with enhanced abilities." Some of the rescued humans were no longer recognizable as children. Decades of modifications and breeding programs had created beings that were part human, part machine, part something else entirely. They spoke only in alien languages and cowered when they saw unmodified humans. But in the deepest part of the facility, Hana found something that made her enhanced heart stop. "So young," she whispered, looking at a young woman who appeared to be in her early 20s. The woman looked up with eyes that had been replaced by alien technology. When she spoke, her voice was flat and emotionless, responding in perfect Velkari. "This unit is designated Psychic Weapon 779. This unit requires maintenance instructions." Hana's daughter had been among the first children taken. She had spent 3 years being modified, conditioned, and transformed into a living weapon. The little girl who had laughed at bedtime stories was gone, replaced by something that barely remembered being human. "So young, it's me." "It's your mother," Hana said gently, switching to Korean. The young woman tilted her head, processing the unfamiliar language. For a moment, something flickered in her artificial eyes. "Mother," she repeated slowly, as if the word had meaning she couldn't quite grasp. War psychologist In-ho worked with the liberated children, trying to assess which ones might eventually recover their humanity. The news was mixed. Some children, particularly those taken recently, showed signs of retained personality. Others had been so thoroughly modified that reversal might be impossible. "The conditioning is designed to be irreversible," In-ho explained to the assembled medical team. "But we've learned things about human psychology that the Velkari never understood. Children are remarkably resilient. With time and proper treatment, some of them might remember who they were." The interrogation of captured Velkari leaders revealed the true scope of their empire's crimes. Enhanced humans could extract information directly from alien minds, bypassing any attempt at deception or resistance. 73 billion sentient beings enslaved over the past millennium, reported Enhanced Interrogator Kyung-soo. Children taken from over 400 different species. Breeding programs designed to create specialized slave races. But the most disturbing revelation was that humanity had been specifically targeted. The Velkari had studied human psychology, and determined that human children were ideal for their purposes. Creative, adaptable, and capable of forming emotional bonds that could be exploited for control. They chose us, President Yunji said quietly as she reviewed the intelligence reports. Out of all the species in the galaxy, they specifically decided to attack humanity because our children were the most valuable to them. The war's scope had expanded far beyond anyone's original expectations. Human forces now controlled over 300 star systems. Liberated slaves from dozens of species served alongside enhanced humans. Former Velkari worlds were being converted into rehabilitation centers for rescued children. "We're not conquerors," Admiral J-Min told the assembled fleet commanders. "But we can't just leave a power vacuum. Someone needs to ensure that slavery never returns to this region of space. Enhanced." Captain Sunja raised a concern that many shared. "Sir, what happens to us when this is over? The enhancements can't be reversed. We're not really human anymore." J-Min looked around the room at his officers. They had volunteered to be modified, knowing the changes would be permanent. They had sacrificed their humanity to become more effective at protecting children. "Then we become something new," he decided. "Guardians, protectors. The species that ensures no one ever hurts children again." Former slave Ji Woo, one of the first human children rescued and one of the few who had retained her sanity, now served as a translator and liaison with other liberated species. Her enhanced psychic abilities allowed her to communicate with beings whose languages had never been translated. "The other species want to know what happens next," she reported to the human leadership. 5 years after the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky, the war was over. The Velkari Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years, existed only in history books and the nightmares of its former victims. But the victory had cost humanity more than anyone could have imagined. President Tae-young, formerly Colonel Tae-ho, who had intercepted the first alien communications, stood before the Global Assembly in New Geneva. The city had been rebuilt 3 times during the war, as Earth's industrial capacity expanded beyond anything the planet could naturally support. "The final accounting," he announced to the assembled representatives from across human space. 47 billion Velkari confirmed dead, 230 worlds liberated, an empire that existed for 3 millennia, destroyed in 5 years. The numbers were staggering, but they told only part of the story. The real cost was visible in the faces of the people who had fought the war. Enhanced humans, whose modifications had been so extensive that they could barely be called human anymore. Regular soldiers who had witnessed horrors that no amount of therapy could erase. Parents who had gotten their children back, but not the children they remembered. Admiral So Young, once Dr. Hana's 8-year-old daughter, now commanded the memorial fleet that patrolled former Velkari space. Her artificial eyes glowed softly as she reviewed patrol reports from her flagship. The modifications that had been forced on her could never be reversed, but she had found a new purpose in ensuring that no other children would suffer as she had. "Status report from Sector 7, she announced to her bridge crew, her voice still lacking the emotional inflection of natural humans. 3 hidden Velkari facilities discovered and eliminated. No survivors found. Her crew, mostly other modified humans rescued from alien experimentation, worked with efficient precision. They understood their purpose, making sure that nothing remained of the empire that had stolen their childhoods. The enhanced humans who had fought the war found themselves in a unique position. They were no longer fully human, but they were the only ones capable of detecting hidden Velkari technology or surviving in the hostile environments where alien remnants might be hiding. "We're the bridge between what humanity was and what it's becoming," explained Elder Admiral Mi Kyung to a group of newly rescued children who were struggling to adapt to freedom. "We chose to become monsters so that you could remain children." The rehabilitation centers on former Velkari worlds housed millions of liberated slaves from dozens of species. Human psychologists worked alongside alien therapists, trying to undo years or decades of conditioning and modification. The success rate was heartbreakingly low. Dr. Hana, now director of Galactic Rehabilitation Services, spent her days working with children who might never remember their original names or home worlds. The little girl who had once played in Seoul's parks was gone forever. But Hana had found a way to honor her memory by helping other stolen children. Recovery is different for every species, she explained to a conference of liberation workers. But children have one advantage that adults don't. They want to play. They want to laugh. If we can reconnect them with those basic desires, sometimes we can help them remember who they were before the aliens took them. The success stories were precious and rare. Jin Woo, the 15-year-old who had been rescued early in the war, had made a full recovery and now helped other human children adjust to freedom. But for every success, there were dozens of children who would never fully escape the psychological damage of their captivity. Historian Kyung Soo worked in the Archives of Remembrance, a massive facility on Luna that documented every aspect of the Valkyrie War. His job was to ensure that future generations would understand what had been sacrificed to protect them. 73,000 human children were recovered alive, he dictated to the historical record. Of those, fewer than 20,000 have achieved what we would consider full psychological recovery. The others remain permanently changed by their experiences. But the war had changed more than just the rescued children. Earth's population had tripled as liberated slaves from across the galaxy chose to make the Sol system their home. The diversity was staggering. Crystal-based life forms from the outer rim, aquatic beings from the water worlds, and energy creatures who existed as pure thought. "We're not just human space anymore," observed Ambassador Min Seo as she reviewed citizenship applications from 17 different species. "We're the home of everyone who was hurt by the Valkyrie and chose to start over with us." The transformation brought challenges. Some species required specialized environments to survive. Others had dietary needs that strained Earth's resources. But the enhanced humans who administered the new society had capabilities that made seemingly impossible problems solvable. Enhanced Governor Sang-ho could interface directly with the computer systems that managed environmental controls for a dozen different species. His modified brain could process resource allocation problems that would have taken teams of experts months to solve. The advantage of not being fully human anymore, he explained to a group of visiting diplomats, is that we can think in ways that pure humans never could. We see solutions that wouldn't occur to unmodified minds. The question of what humanity had become was debated in universities across human space. Professor In-suk, who had lost 2 children in the original abductions, studied the psychological and social changes the war had brought. "We sacrificed our innocence to protect our children's future," she concluded in her landmark study. "The humans who fought the war are no longer the species that entered it, but their children, and the children they rescued, have a chance to become something better than either." The Memorial Fleet continued its patrols, hunting down the last hidden remnants of Valkyrie civilization. Enhanced Captain Wu Jin commanded a ship crewed entirely by rescued humans who had volunteered to ensure that no trace of the alien empire survived. "Contact," reported Enhanced Sensor Operator Dalmin. "Valkyrie life signs detected on the 3rd moon of the gas giant ahead." "How many?" Wu Jin asked. "Approximately 50 individuals. Appears to be a research facility." Wu Jin's artificial senses could detect the fear radiating from the hidden aliens even at this distance. After 5 years of systematic extermination, the surviving Valkyrie lived in constant terror, knowing that enhanced humans could find them anywhere they tried to hide. "Standard approach," he ordered. "No survivors." The elimination of the research facility took less than an hour. Enhanced soldiers phased through the moon's surface, disabled alien defenses, and methodically executed every Velkari they found. In the facility's depths, they discovered one last horror, a laboratory where alien scientists had been attempting to clone human children from genetic samples. "Even now, they won't stop," Dalmine observed as he destroyed the cloning equipment. "They still think of our children as resources to be harvested." The discovery reinforced the enhanced human's conviction that complete extinction was the only acceptable outcome. As long as a single Velkari survived, there would be a risk that the slave empire might somehow rebuild itself. But the war's end brought unexpected challenges. Other alien species, seeing humanity's military capabilities, began approaching Earth with their own problems. Pirates threatening trade routes, tyrants oppressing their people, ancient enemies seeking to restart old conflicts. "We never wanted to be the galaxy's police force," President Tae-Young explained to the Galactic Council, now headquartered on Earth after the old order's collapse. "But we learned during the war that evil prospers when good people do nothing." The decision to intervene in other conflicts was controversial even among humans. Some argued that they had already sacrificed enough. Others believed that having gained the power to protect the innocent, they had a responsibility to use it. "The enhanced humans can't return to normal life," pointed out Counselor Yu Jin, the former weapons designer who now helped guide policy. "Their modifications make them uniquely suited for combat operations. If we don't give them a purpose, what happens to them?" The solution was the Guardian Corps, an organization of enhanced humans dedicated to protecting children throughout the HFY galaxy. They didn't conquer or rule. They simply appeared whenever someone threatened the young of any species, bringing swift and merciless justice. Elder Captain Kyung Ho, now in his final years despite life-extending modifications, visited the memorial, gardens where every stolen child's name was carved in stone. The gardens covered hundreds of acres, with separate sections for those who had returned, those who had died, and those who were still missing. "We got most of them back," he told the memorial wall, running his fingers over familiar names. "Not all and not unchanged, but most. I hope that's enough." The children who played in Earth's parks now included beings from dozens of worlds. Human kids laughed alongside young aliens whose species had been saved from slavery. Enhanced humans watched over them all, their artificial senses alert for any threat. Great Admiral So Young, ancient by normal standards but kept vital by her modifications, observed a group of children playing in the rebuilt city that had once been Seoul. Among them were her own great-grandchildren, born to the daughter she had rescued and helped heal.